The whispers coming out of the studio for this Friday, July 17, are absolutely staggering. Everyone in town, and frankly most of the audience, is incredibly quick to assume that Sonny is just being a jealous, territorial ex-husband by actively trying to break up Carly and Valentine. But ladies, if you ask me, that assumption is far too simple and insulting for a man who has survived this long in the lethal underworld. I strongly suspect that Sonny has stumbled upon a terrifying hidden reality. Valentine is currently being tracked and hunted by a highly dangerous secret organization. Sonny knows that if he openly warns Carly about this impending doom, her legendary stubbornness will kick in. She will dig her heels into the ground, refuse to leave Valentine's side, and place a massive, glowing target squarely on her own back. Because he absolutely cannot tell her the truth without endangering her further, Sonny is forced to orchestrate a brilliant but devastating hidden agenda. He has to enlist Brick to meticulously construct a false narrative, a manipulative scheme designed to violently push Carly away from Valentine. Sonny wants to make it look as though Valentine is betraying her, breaking her heart into a million pieces in order to save her life. He needs Carly to hate Valentine so much that she walks away without looking back. It is a desperate, twisted act of love, but the mechanics of this lie require absolute precision, and Brick is the only one who can forge the digital footprints necessary to make Valentine look like a monster. But think about the catastrophic domino effect of this agonizing choice. When Carly eventually discovers, and she always discovers the truth, ladies, that Sonny played God with her heart and her autonomy yet again, the emotional fallout will be apocalyptic. The betrayal will completely shatter whatever fragile, lingering trust remains between them. Sonny's desperate, misguided attempt to protect the mother of his children might be the exact catalyst that destroys their bond permanently. Carly will view this not as protection, but as the ultimate form of controlling manipulation, pushing her further into the dark unknown and creating an unbridgeable chasm between them. And what happens to Valentine in this horrific scenario? If Sonny's hidden agenda succeeds and Carly walks away in tears, Valentine will be left completely isolated and vulnerable. Stripped of Carly's fierce protection and the formidable shield of her family's influence, Valentine becomes easy prey for this shadow organization that is hunting him. Sonny is essentially throwing Valentine to the wolves to build an impenetrable fortress around Carly. But will this reckless gamble actually work? Or will this manipulative scheme spectacularly backfire, drawing the attention and the lethal wrath of these dangerous forces directly to Sonny's own doorstep? The first domino has been pushed, and the collateral damage is going to be immeasurable. Now, let us pivot our attention to that highly anticipated, emotionally charged hospital confrontation between Liesel and Jocelyn. On the surface, it simply looks like a grieving, desperate mother seeking answers and clarity about a police statement regarding her son. But ladies, we have known Liesel for years, and we know her far better than that. If you ask me, Liesel is not walking into that hospital room to beg for sympathy. She is walking in there to make a high-stakes deal. I strongly theorize that Liesel has secretly obtained a damning, explosive piece of evidence that changes the entire narrative of the recent tragedy. I am talking about a classified audio recording, a heavily encrypted flash drive, or a hidden intelligence document that definitively proves Cassius actually sacrificed himself to stop the catastrophic cold fusion disaster. Why would Liesel not just march directly into the authorities or hand this golden ticket over to Anna? Because Liesel is a master tactician who knows that the real power in this world lies in leverage. By bringing this volatile evidence directly to Jocelyn, Liesel is intentionally forcing a horrific, agonizing moral dilemma onto a young woman who is already deeply traumatized by her captivity. Liesel is essentially placing the detonator in Jocelyn's hands, saying, "Here is the absolute truth that clears my son's tarnished name, but revealing it to the public will expose the deep-seated rot and corruption at the highest levels of the government." She is daring Jocelyn to pull the pin on the grenade. Think about the massive domino effect here. If Jocelyn chooses to release this evidence to clear Cassius, she will instantly ignite an unholy alliance of corrupt officials and powerful elites who will stop at absolutely nothing to bury the truth and silence anyone attached to it. Jocelyn's choice could bring the devastating wrath of the entire intelligence community crashing down on her family. Liesel is brilliantly, ruthlessly shifting the heavy, suffocating burden of Cassius's legacy directly onto Jocelyn's young shoulders. If Jocelyn decides to stay quiet to protect her family, the overwhelming guilt of letting a hero be remembered as a villain will eat her alive from the inside out. But if she bravely speaks up, she risks destroying everyone she loves in a firestorm of government retaliation. It is a lose-lose situation, and Liesel knows exactly what she is doing by trapping her in this vicious cycle. Speaking of the cold fusion disaster and the tangled web of lies, we absolutely must talk about Anna and Britt. The upcoming interrogation at the police station is not going to be a standard run-of-the-mill question and answer session. Britt is far too smart, far too cynical, and far too hardened to just sit there in a sterile room and take the heat for a crime she did not orchestrate. I suspect that during this tense standoff, Britt is going to drop a massive bombshell that will completely shake Anna to her very core. I theorize that Britt is going to lean across that metal table and reveal that Ross was never the true mastermind of the cold fusion nightmare. Britt might expose the chilling reality that Ross was nothing more than a disposable, low-level pawn on a much larger, much darker chessboard. If Britt confesses that the real, terrifying architect behind the cold fusion project is still out there, completely untouched, breathing free air, and operating in the shadows of Port Charles, it changes the entire landscape of the show and proves that the nightmare is far from over. For Anna, who is already violently struggling with her own fragile grip on reality and constantly haunted by terrifying hallucinations of her past, this revelation will be devastating. Anna will realize that the strings in Port Charles are being pulled by an invisible, omnipotent puppet master. This horrifying realization will send Anna spiraling down into a dangerous, consuming obsession. She will begin desperately hunting a ghost in the shadows, pushing her loved ones away, while her own mental state rapidly deteriorates under the crushing weight of her paranoia. And what happens to Britt in the aftermath of this confession? If she truly knows that this mastermind exists, she is in grave, immediate danger. The domino effect of her spilling this secret to Anna could lead this shadow figure right to the bars of her jail cell. I deeply fear that Britt might soon come face to face with this mysterious, powerful person. And instead of finding the freedom she so desperately craves, Britt will be violently forced into a new, terrifying, vicious cycle of being manipulated, blackmailed, and controlled. Britt might think she is cleverly clearing the board by talking to Anna, but in reality, she is only inviting the devil himself into. Now, let us shift gears and look at a scene that has been bothering me deeply, keeping me awake at night. Isaiah violently bursting into Portia's hospital room right after she gave birth to the new baby. The writers desperately want us to think that Isaiah is just an insensitive, litigious, angry doctor who is selfishly ruining a beautiful, sweet moment of triumph for Curtis and Portia. But ladies, I do not buy that narrative for a single, solitary second. In the dramatic world of legacy families, timing is absolutely everything, and there are no accidents. I strongly suspect that Isaiah found something deeply disturbing, a hidden medical file, a shocking blood test result, or a buried genetic screening regarding the newborn baby. If you ask me, Isaiah rushed into that hospital room, completely ignoring all boundaries and advice, because he realized that if he waited even 5 minutes longer, a massive, life-altering truth about that baby would be permanently buried by the hospital administration or someone harboring a dark, hidden agenda. He knew that the window to expose this secret was closing rapidly. What if the baby's confidential medical records reveal a rare genetic marker that proves a shocking paternity twist, or worse, a dangerous, inherited medical condition that requires immediate, life-saving intervention? The domino effect of Isaiah's frantic intrusion will violently shatter the joyful, peaceful illusion that Portia and Curtis are desperately clinging to. This single moment will plunge their entire family into a waking nightmare of medical trauma and emotional turmoil, tearing apart the foundation of their marriage just moments after it was supposed to be cemented by new life. Finally, we have to emotionally prepare ourselves for the absolute heartbreak that is coming in the scene between Cody and young James. We all know that Cody has taken on the soul-crushing responsibility of delivering the devastating news that Cassius is gone forever. But what if there is a massive, unexpected twist waiting in the wings? I strongly theorize that Cody might have recently received a secret package, a hidden letter, or a secure video message left behind by Cassius just moments before his supposed death. I believe this message was specifically meant for James's eyes only. Imagine the sheer emotional devastation if James sits down and watches a video of Cassius tearfully explaining that he had to disappear, that he never ever wanted to abandon him, but that faking his death was the absolute only way to protect James from the terrifying, lethal forces that were relentlessly hunting him down. It would change the entire narrative of Cassius's departure from a cowardly escape to a heroic, tragic sacrifice, leaving James with a complicated legacy to carry. The domino effect here is incredibly dangerous and twofold. First, it gives young James a tragic, misunderstood hero to mourn rather than a deceptive villain to hate, completely altering his psychological development. But secondly, and much more dangerously, it paints a massive, glowing target directly on Cody's back. If the ruthless people who were hunting Cassius find out that he left a digital trail or a message behind, they will immediately assume Cody knows too much. They will come for Cody and James next, pulling them into a lethal game of cat and mouse that they are completely unprepared for. When you step back, take a deep breath, and look at the entire sprawling board of Port Charles, ladies, it is absolutely chilling to the bone. Sunny, Anna, Britt, Liesel, and Isaiah all seem to be walking down their own separate isolated paths, fighting their own personal demons. But if you ask me, they are all unknowingly tracing the exact same terrifying secret. They are all blindfolded, reaching out in the dark, desperately searching for answers, while the true, unseen mastermind watches them stumble from the shadows, patiently waiting for the absolute perfect moment to strike and bring the legacy families to their knees. Will they manage to uncover the truth and unite before it is too late? Or are they all just tragic pawns being flawlessly maneuvered into a deadly, inescapable trap?